We're in Quark's bar and watching a woman tell a younger guy all about her business plans. She can't quite understand why she's so trusting of the chap in question, spilling her secrets after only just meeting, and the whole thing smells of confidence trickster. Or maybe she just recognizes the actor. In fact, this is the second Princess Bride crossover we've had on Deep Space Nine now, so let's glue a name all over that face of his. The Wheel of Names decrees that Prince Humperdinck will now be known as... Ensign Five Spice, given to us by Ensign Captain Picard. Ensign Five Spice is very reassuring. They may have only just met, and she might be several drinks up on him, but he's absolutely trustworthy. It's enough for her to tell him about her investment plans, namely buying some asteroids that she has insider survey knowledge of from her dead father. He's paying great attention to her, and somebody else is paying greater attention to them both. Odo's across the way and watching their ongoing discussion. Just as Five Spice is offering to help her out by becoming a business partner, he gets his collar felt by Odo. Our boy here is an El-Urian, yes, those ones, and there's something about them that makes others be far more open than they normally would. A very useful ability for, say, a bartender of the Federation flagship, but also a valuable skill for a con man. And that's why Odo's dragged Five Spice in, because he's received a complaint from the last people that got stiffed, one that he intends to pursue. Ensign Five Spice's victims aren't the only ones getting stiffed. O'Brien's been building a racquetball court on his own time, it being somewhat of a hobby, and Bashir's found out about it. He's a champion player, of course, captain of the team back in the academy, and the arrogant attitude gets O'Brien's backup, almost as much as realizing he's completely outmatched. We'll leave them to it and catch up with Ensign Five Spice. He's sharing a cell now, Odo having presumably been busy today, and the company is not a quiet sleeper. Five Spice wakes him, eventually, and we discover the cellmate has had some unfortunate luck. He seems to believe it's connected with a flashy gizmo he's playing with, one that Five Spice recognizes as a gambling contraption of some kind. Whatever it is, the cellmate attributes it with events in his life being disastrous. Five Spice says it's simply luck, and the cellmate seems to agree in a way. It's changing, though, as he's just won on his little gizmo. The victory is short-lived, and I mean that in a very literal sense, as the guy has just cocked it. Despite this odd set of circumstances, Ensign Five Spice decides the best thing to do is steal the device before alerting Odo about developments. Bit of an odd choice, but let's see how it works out for him. It can't be any worse than O'Brien's racquetball game. He got his arse handed to him by Bashir and is bloody fuming. Keiko trying to calm him doesn't work, but that's fine. O'Brien's already planning revenge for the rematch. It's a prospect that Bashir doesn't find appealing. As he's explaining to Dax over a meal, he was genuinely concerned for O'Brien during the game. He even tried to make excuses to end it early, but O'Brien simply refused to stop. The bugger of it is, Bashir genuinely likes O'Brien and wasn't intentionally being a dick. That's why he's trying to get out of the rematch, so he doesn't have to go through it all over again. Ensign Five Spice is quite taken with his stolen toy, and it seems quite taken with him too, as he keeps winning. Here's a curious thing though, his luck isn't limited to just toys. The people who he stiffed last time round have decided not to press charges. His luck holds at Quark's bar too, and he gambles himself a free drink. Quark's not surprised by this, as he's aware of Five Spice's sudden change of circumstances. It's in his interest to keep informed about such things, especially with the sort of people that catch Odo's attention. Or maybe it's not Five Spice he's interested in after all. Talk about the gizmo results in Quark putting some cash on the bar, whilst also claiming it's largely worthless. You can't bullshit a bullshitter though, and Five Spice knows the smell well enough. He's decided to keep it, for now. Out on the promenade he notes a shop closing down. Based on the gold-headed mannequins, maybe it's the god-awful dressmaker from the last episode. If it is, then the woman we saw before was just an employee, as the person Five Spice speaks to is someone different. Business was good, she says. She's just shutting down now because her husband died recently, and she's decided it's time. It's also time for the Bashir-O'Brien rematch, and O'Brien's still pissed off. This time it's because he's winning. More specifically, it's because he knows he's having the win handed to him, and he stomps off in a bit of a huff after letting Bashir know he's not fooling anyone. And speaking of fooling people, it looks like Ensign Five Spice is up to shenanigans again, only this time successfully. The store that was shutting down is now a club, and Five Spice is the host. Quark's fuming because he says he has an exclusivity contract for the station. Those were bribes paid to the Cardigans though, and Sisko doesn't feel he owes Quark anything either. Most cutting of all, perhaps, is that his own brother is going to work for Five Spice and made a quarter partner in the business. Smart move. If you want to understand your competition, pay someone who knows where the bodies are buried. The club has bar-mounted larger versions of his handheld gizmo, the good luck charm that's brought all of this about. He's even doing so well now that his drinking partner from the start of the show, who comes asking for an investment in her asteroid mining scheme, leaves happy. And the woman who owned the business here is happy too, especially when Five Spice proposes to her. I'd maybe have asked how her last husband died first, but he's on a lucky streak. What could go wrong? Luck is the theme on Deep Space Nine right now, and in very different directions. Dax is on the upswing, surprised by the computer finding a program she'd been hunting for weeks. O'Brien is on the downswing, a freak accident on the racquetball court resulting in him having a brief nap. Quark's in the luck rut too, all of his regular customers over at Ensign Five Spice's place. Maybe two losers make a winner though, and O'Brien's arrival gives him a chance to change things. He listens to O'Brien's woes, mostly to convince himself that he's every bit the host Five Spice is, and somewhere along the way, an idea begins to form. Up in Ops, it's Kira's turn to get shat on by Luck. A report she'd spent ages on has decided to implode. That's an interesting coincidence, says Sisko, as he's had reports from all over detailing incidences of bad luck. Bashir's rushed off his feet with people who've had minor accidents, just like the one Kira has after saying there's no such thing as luck. Luck, both good and bad, is happening right in Ensign Five Spice's bar. Everybody just won the jackpot on those gizmos of his, which is obviously terrible news for him. And it's just a taste. Quark's luck has returned, due in no small part to his own intervention. He's had an idea to get everybody back into his bar, a sporting grudge match spectacular. O'Brien's a touch surprised to learn he's involved, as is Bashir. Both of them were called here on emergencies and only found out about the match when Quark sprung it on them. And all for a good cause, too, as part of the profits are going to Bajoran orphans, just to make sure they can't back out. There's been a reversal of fortunes in Ops. Dax has lost the program from earlier, and Kira's back from the infirmary after finding there's no injury. Just as well, really, as Bashir's having more and more patients from accidents. Dax is the first to suggest all of this might not be entirely normal, and we start doing a science to figure out what the hell's going on. Ensign Five Spice's poor luck has held. If anything, it's getting worse. The place is empty, and it's likely to stay that way as his business partner/fiancé has returned to find him looking for comfort in an employee's Norks. Suffice to say, she's unimpressed, and as this place is still technically hers, she wants him and his gizmos gone by tomorrow. His last roll of the dice, then, is to throw all of the money he has left at the woman he was drinking with at the start of the episode. She promises a tenfold return on his investment, those asteroids being very valuable and all, and she leaves with the promise that they'll both be rich. Speaking of money, the match between O'Brien and Bashir, upon which many people are betting, is soon to be underway. As this is organised by Quark, there's obviously going to be a dodgy wrinkle, and it comes in the form of him trying to nobble Bashir, as that's who everybody's betting on. A surprise O'Brien win could be very profitable for him. Trying to drug someone whose job is administering drugs is a bold play, and it doesn't work out for him. Neither does asking him to throw the match so orphans get more aid, but you've got to admire his persistence. Up in Ops, we've found something odd. Dax has been looking at neutrinos, and under normal circumstances, they'd be evenly distributed on which direction they spin. And before you start typing, yes, I looked at a bit of data on neutrinos, and yes, I know that our current observations of them show they all rotate clockwise and antineutrinos counterclockwise, but I do not have the time or inclination to study quantum mechanics for a YouTube video, so let's just assume Dax knows her shit and science has moved on in 300 years, okay? Okay. Anywho, Dax has been looking at these particles and found the distribution is off. You'd expect a minor variance, but this is 80% in one direction, which is very improbable indeed. Everything outside the station looks fine, so it's a localized issue, and a fair bet for being connected to our current shenanigans. Shenanigans are being had on a certain racquetball court too. Bashir's having an absurd patch of bad luck, including the decapitation of his racket. Him nearly braining himself on a wall is enough for O'Brien to call a halt to proceedings. It's not just Bashir's bad luck, but O'Brien's good fortune, him admitting that he's pulling off moves that were way beyond him even at his prime. Some tests with the ball prove things aren't right, and we call the others down. They're convinced by the tests too, Bashir unable to catch a single one, and O'Brien never failing. All of which is enough to make Dax conclude that something's buggering about with probability, and she thinks she knows how to track it, too. Some scanning of particles, and an increasing percentage of them spinning the same way the closer they get to Ensign Five Spice's machines, tracks down the cause. Some questions establish that Five Spice doesn't understand what they are, what they do, or what powers them, so naturally the standard Starfleet solution is to just poop yellow on them. That concludes the universe taking back everything it had given him, save for one final addition. Odo's back to take him into custody. The people he conned before the episode have had another change of heart and decided they want to go ahead with pressing charges. How unfortunate. Rescue comes for Ensign Five Spice in the form of his mining business partner. That's what he thinks anyway, until she gets put in another cell. She's been reported to Odo by Quark, you see. Something about an asteroid mining scam, but Quark's far too experienced to fall for something so obvious. It's not all bad news, though, as Quark's here to spring Five Spice, and they have a little chat about Quark loaning him money for a ticket somewhere else, on the unspoken understanding that he stays the hell away. Odo's apparently fine with all of this, suggesting that either they've arranged something with the people pressing charges, or, tantalizingly, that they didn't change their minds in the first place, and this is all a con arranged between Odo and Quark to get rid of Five Spice. We'll leave Quark and Five Spice to haggle, and the viewer to decide which explanation they prefer, until the next adventure. Coincidence is a funny thing. There's an episode of Voyager, the finale to the first season, where Tuvok takes some low performers on a hike through the ship's guts. I said at the time that it reminded me of an episode of Red Dwarf, where Rimmer does something similar. When this episode unveiled its take on probability manipulation, the first thought into my head was, oh, like that episode of Red Dwarf, where Lister takes a luck virus. In fact, there's even a scene in this where Sisko suggests the cause is a virus. Now, I'm not saying that's deliberate, as I've no doubt there are plenty of other examples of manipulated luck being a plot element, but, coincidence is a funny thing. Appropriate for the episode, which I guess you could even argue is another coincidence. There's one point where they diverge, of course. The episode of Red Dwarf I mentioned with the luck virus is generally considered to be one of the best. This, on the other hand, not so much. Maybe that's a reflection of the source material, luck being something more suited to comedy and thus less appropriate in a hard sci-fi setting, but that's not the only issue here. Chris Sarandon is a good actor. I can think of a couple of things off the top of my head that I enjoyed him in. This is not one of them. He suits serious. He suits pompous. The character he plays here needed to be neither of those, instead requiring a weaselly, slimy sort of saccharine charm. The incongruity makes everything that hangs off it that little bit less convincing, and the whole suffers as a result. It's not a stinker, but it's probably not on anybody's top 10 lists either. It's not without redemption, though, and the interplay between Bashir and O'Brien takes the top spot. Bashir being genuinely cut up about how badly O'Brien's taking things is a welcome step towards making him more likeable than his previous outings. Seeing O'Brien call a halt to the match he's winning also helps counteract the arguably poor sportsmanship he displayed up to that point, taking the edge off his pride. He'd like to win, sure, but only if it's right. Welcome, too, was the choice to have a topless O'Brien in the episode. No sculpted, tanned torso, no oiled, glistening muscles. He's just a bloke, and this further reinforces the everyman status that is O'Brien's main strength. There's also the nice little twist at the end, the suspected convictim herself being a confidence trickster. Okay, that might be lifted from dirty rotten scoundrels, along with a few other bits to boot, but it's still a pleasing change of direction. Ultimately, though, this one doesn't have enough going for it to make it particularly memorable. Whether the original idea of having Guinan be Five Spice's mother and present in the episode would have made it better is debatable, as our Q episode in Season 1 showed us crossovers are far from a guaranteed success. For my money, I suspect any fun found from interactions between Guinan and Quark wouldn't have been enough to compensate for further diluting the story. Another example, then, of Trek serving too many dishes with not enough food on, and everybody leaving hungry as a result. End of episode.
Are you sure you're up for this?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Really? Because you still sound a little dodgy.
I'm a dog. Any voice at all's frankly a miracle.
Well, if you're sure.
Just get on with it.
Okay, so I broke into the security office.
When did you know that?
In between visiting hours at the hospital.
Fair enough.
Anyway, I found the file for the other dogs. Apparently they're called Astrochien and Ordinator.
So French for space, dog, and computer. Well, that can't be coincidence.
They came here on a shuttle too, one that couldn't be found, and said something about time travel.
Any idea where the shuttle came from?
Well, that's the interesting part. They said they came from a ship called Voyager.